Evening, everybody. We'll go ahead and call the open session to order. David Ruderman, if you would report on actions taken in closed session, please.
Sure. Actually, the board did have a special meeting earlier at 2 o'clock with 2 closed session items, and there was no reportable action on those items. And then at the regular meeting at 4 o'clock, there were originally 6 items agendized. However, the board did not consider 5.4 and 5.5. Those were removed. So as to 5.1, the minutes, those were approved on a 4-0 vote with 1 absence. There was no reportable action on 5.2, conference with legal counsel. And then 5.3 and 5.6, which were both Health and Safety Code 32155 hearings, those reports and credentialing decisions were also approved on a 4-0 vote, again, with 1 absence. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much. And we'll just note that we do have Director Darzenkiewicz joining by Zoom. So at this point, he can comment but cannot make motions or vote. He should be here shortly, however, at which point he'll have full privileges. Any deletions or corrections to the posted agenda? Nope. Do you have any audience input this evening? This will be for items which are not on the posted agenda. Hearing and seeing none. Any input from the employee associations? Seeing none. Item 12, President and CEO monthly highlights. Anna, good evening.
Good evening. Anna Roth, President and CEO. I wanted to go over some highlights. I'm going to actually, I lost the screen. I'm going to offer a correction as we go, but I'll get to that. So I want to talk about the highlights. I have reorganized the highlights. These highlights are pulled from the chief's reports that you can hyperlink to in their entirety. So I pulled out a few highlights and reorganized these in the True North sort of 3 themes that we talked about, which is health within reach, peaks of excellence, and transformation. So I'll just get started. I want to start with a note of gratitude to our medical staff. The Tahoe Forest Hospital District med staff actually were quite inspired by the board, and they each year make decisions about how they're going to spend their dollars, and they actually decided that they wanted to put dollars towards the navigation center. And so I wanted to actually ask Dr. Koch if she wanted to make any comments here, but I just wanted to say that it was such an inspirational both meeting last month, the joint meeting of the town council and the Tahoe Forest Hospital District together, coming together to support this navigation center with some shelter beds. And then it was equally inspiring to see the med staff, the medical executive committee, make this decision. And I actually wanted to invite Dr. Koch if she wanted to share any comments.
So each year, the medical staff traditionally has given gifts to all of the members of the medical staff, and they come out of the medical staff dues. And starting last year, we made the decision that rather than getting a, emergency car kit or a solar-operated flashlight or something else, that we would make donations. And so that last year was the first year we did that. And this year, we made the choice to support the center because we feel as though this is a really hard time in our nation for people who have less, and that this was probably one of the most, this and the food resources in the community were the places that we could make the most difference. And so that's why we chose these 2 donation opportunities.
I really want to express gratitude to you and to the medical staff for the contribution. I think Dr. Gladstone and Katie Lamb were at the meeting and spoke, and I think they made an impression of how having the unsheltered around can impact the hospital. And again, I think it was a great move in showing the alignment that the med staff and the organization has. So please extend our appreciation to your medical staff.
I will do that. Thank you.
So I think you can see why I led with that as our highlight of the month. So I will quickly go to the next slide. This is really, again, I wanted to talk a little bit about just health within reach, and this is really about access. There are two things, and I did provide the third next available appointment. That will be on the next slide. I'll read that out loud because actually Dr. Darzankevich actually asked for that to kind of come monthly, so I'll make sure he can hear it as he's driving. But I also wanted to say that we are actively working on a variety of things. It isn't about just, and in fact, it isn't about working people harder. It's about working smarter. And so this is one of the, I just want to highlight some of the changes that the staff have put in place, particularly IT and the Access Center. This is called Epic Fast Pass. What this is it's a new feature where essentially if you're on a wait list, it will alert you. And so this is really a sample of 19 patients that this is applying to, but of those 19 patients, on average, they were saved 35 days. So I just wanted to just put the data up there for you to see that there are a variety of levers that the staff are pulling, being very creative. And again, this is sort of an automated wait list that if somebody cancels, then in the background, the system invites you for an appointment. So I think, again, I just want to acknowledge there was a lot of IT work that went into that, but there's a lot of workflow work at the office level that goes into that.
And when there's the alert that there's an opening, how does the individual receive it? In MyChart, in an email, on their phone?
Yeah. Oh, there's Jake. Jake's here. Sorry, Jake. I didn't see you. Yeah, it comes in via MyChart.
So this is only helpful for patients that are in the MyChart format.
Right.
Yes.
And you've got your MyChart open to see it.
You get an email
No, you
and
get-
you
yeah.
know there's a MyChart message.
Right, but you still have to be close to your computer, or I guess you can do it on your phone too.
Do you want to just add? There is more to come on that. That is sort of step one is a MyChart. Just if you could add one sentence to that, Jake, because I know there's a little bit more to that. There will be.
So we're about 67% adoption rate with MyChart users. With our recent notifications that we sent out, we actually hit 90% on subset, which was impressive. But in further iterations of this, it'll become text. So you'll get a text message and then you can reply back, yes, I would like this, and then it will reply back, you got it, because it's first come, first serve.
Okay. Good to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
How does this impact our efforts to improve our third next available appointments?
We don't, so we don't have a direct correlation yet, but this is these kind of different kinds of interventions stacked on top of each other,
Yeah.
Theoretically will impact that third next available. It won't be a one and done. It's not like keep the exam rooms open longer or go ahead. You're-
I just wanted to add, this fills those holes on schedules that form at the last minute with somebody who's waiting for an appointment. That's a huge improvement.
Yeah.
Huge improvement.
Yeah.
So it's going to make the third available come much sooner over time.
Yeah, well, plus then you get a billable patient too, so
Correct.
it's good for the hospital as well.
Correct.
And importantly, people who are waiting for care get the care. So it's wonderful. It's a wonderful
Win-win.
effort, yes, sorry. And our third next available, this is for, I will say this out loud because Dr. Darzankevich is driving, but we have gone from July to November from 47 to 40. I want to say, though, that that's also, I'm told, the shoulder season. So I do, I just want to put it out there, and I don't think we can say whether this is really an improvement or not, but we do have a lot of activity going on. We have our Access to Care team is looking at a number of things, including they're looking at panel sizes, roster sizes, where they're doing a lot of work around how long each appointment is. They're looking at the data. So there's a lot of, like, I would call, they're creating like a spec sheet, and that's really core and very important and very difficult work to do. And I do want to just applaud the team for working on that, because it's quite detailed, and as many different providers we have is as many different workflows we have. So again, trying to figure out where the average is there and how you kind of go in and how you can put an intervention that can kind of touch all of those workflows without disrupting it's truly an engineering feat. So I just want to acknowledge that. Care in the community, this is, I just wanted to give you talk a little bit about care in the community. I have highlighted just a couple of things. We expanded our diabetes outreach in Spanish. We've worked in partnership with the Sierra Community House to do this. We also collaborated with first responders around wellness initiatives. And then finally, I think importantly, and I know that many people got this message, and actually we did a press release about it, so I just wanted to make sure we put in today's report that we did work in partnership with Nevada County Public Health. We did get notice from them that we did have an active tuberculosis exposure event in our system. It was, the moment that they found out, they notified us, we activated a response system. I want to just acknowledge truly, like, our quality and regulatory department, occupational health and wellness, IT, facilities, emergency management, lab services, finance, the Access Center, marketing, communication, Dr. Evans, Crystal Felix. I mean, people had to really think about, like, how are we going to respond to this? How are we going to ensure people have access to the kind of testing? How will we make sure that's paid for? There was a lot of work to be done. And then, clearly the communications team and the IT team, which really were take the lead on making sure people were informed. I also want to say that many of our providers had lots of conversations on a one-to-one basis with people who they care for, who are on their care team, in their care. And so a lot of care and thought went into this response. I want to express gratitude also to Nevada County Public Health Department, because they were very supportive of us, and they were in lockstep with us on a daily basis, I think, initially. And Dr. Evans really took the lead across all of that. So I did want to acknowledge that. This is again Peaks of Excellence, and the reason I put the OB in here is I do think it's just important. You might hear me mention this at some regular frequency, because it's so important to acknowledge that we are one of the few critical access hospitals that still has OB. And, as you can see, they're pretty busy. In fact, this was the highest number, local births in October, this was the highest number we've seen in 3 years. So they're working very hard over there. There's still demand for service. So, again, I think it's important that we recognize that OB is a critical service in our rural community, and at a time when we're seeing many shut down. I just want to acknowledge that. We brought in a new manager, it was this last month, Courtney. I don't know her last name, I'm sorry. P-L-A-T-T. Platt, Courtney Platt. And I actually went and did rounding in there several times, and I actually, the staff are really enjoying the new manager. They're introducing a lot of new things. We brought TOLAC and some others to this board. So they've been undergoing a lot of change, and there's a lot of resilience there. So I just wanted to acknowledge them. Our next is just, I wanted to talk about the pharmacy. Again, we've seen our busiest month yet, over 10,000 refills this last month. And again, the chart sort of speaks for itself. I just wanted to make sure we acknowledge, we continue to see services grow, even though, people think maybe we've plateaued. There's just no sign of that. There's no evidence of that. So again, I think I have a very heartened feeling, very heartened to see these buildings that Dylan and his team are, putting expansions in place, because we know that more and more people are looking to Tahoe Forest for their care. And lots of, I think, really common things like a pharmacy refill. Lots of people don't maybe think about that. You think about doctor's appointments, but there's a lot of work that a doctor's appointment generates. And pharmacy and getting your medication refilled is critical. And one of the drivers we know the evidence tells us is that's actually, if you don't have like easy access to a refill, that's actually drives emergency department and urgent care use. So kudos to the pharmacy for that.
Another kudo to the pharmacy is that if you're on a prescription now that's a standing prescription, that they will alert you that it's time to get it refilled so that you don't run out. And if your prescription expires, they note it and they will send a message to your provider, but they again tell you that you need to also send that message. So again, keeping us well filled with our medication to keep us away from the emergency room. So thanks to the pharmacy for that.
Yes. So my data points are dated right now because we actually had the stroke care certification survey yesterday. And I actually would ask that either Jan or Dr. Evans come up for just a moment and talk about how that went. I will say this, I was at the opening session of that, and it was not only just very technically well done, just truly extraordinary presentation, which, by the way, you will see next month, because we just said the board has to see this, but it was also moving, because one of the things that reminded me as they opened is, and I won't steal the thunder, but of the story, but what I encounter here all of the time is that this is personal for our team. And it was extraordinarily a moving opening session, which I think I may have never said that before about a regulatory or accreditation opening session, but it was. And I'll just let you give just a preview of what's coming next month.
Yeah, so just to catch you guys up, you guys are probably already aware that a lot of work has been done to get Tahoe Forest to being a stroke receiving hospital and get designated as that by the American Heart Association. Started out as bronze, we're now at gold level for that, very rapidly achieved gold. But this survey was to become fully accredited as a stroke primary receiving hospital in stroke care through the ACHC, which is our accrediting body. So the surveyor came. We had a presentation with Julie Morgan and Dr. Abby Young, who's one of our emergency physicians. They've been doing the heavy lifting with a lot of other help. Katie Lamb was there, and many other people have been assisting with this. The presentation was honestly the best survey presentation I've seen in my career. They just put a ton of work into it. It was extremely well done. It was extremely clear, all the processes that they put into place, all to the benefit of patients who arrive at this hospital with strokes, to get them very timely, very appropriate care. And it's extremely complex. So I could not have been prouder about the presentation. I did ask Dr. Young if she and Julie would be willing to come and present to the board. So we're looking at opportunities for that. I think you would appreciate that presentation very much. But we can be extremely proud of the work that they have done for our team.
Can you stay here?
Sure.
So just giving you a little teaser of what's coming next month. Clinician support. So this is really about what's called the ICAC, or the clinical advisory.
IT Clinical Advisory Committee, although I will say they're talking about changing the title
I
to something a little easier.
Say it. I don't know.
It doesn't work.
Clinical IT Advisory Committee, and so I'll let you speak to actually, I would like you to speak to the next 2 points. Because
Sure.
actually, Dr. Evans actually went to Virginia Mason also.
Yeah, the ICAC, basically, this was Anna's strong recommendation that we make sure that we have clinician involvement in key IT decision-making that affects the lives of clinicians so that they can help figure out what types of IT support we want to have, how it's rolled out, how it's fine-tuned. And so that committee is now functioning. Kyle Kittel is one of the co-chairs, as well as Dr. Aaron Gladman, who's one of our emergency physicians. So the two of them co-chair that. And what they're really doing is creating pathways for clinicians to give input and then also to receive information about all the things that are IT. And that's just getting more and more in this day and age, especially with AI. So the first big project was figuring out which vendors are really the best ones for clinicians to use for AI ambient transcription technology. These are software packages that listen to conversations in the exam room and then help create a chart, ultimately, that a physician or an APP can use for their documentation purposes. It's a time saver. It actually increases the quality of the documentation and really just helps free physicians and APPs up so that they're not spending a lot of time charting after their shifts are over, et cetera. So that resulted in a number of demonstrations and a selected vendor, and there'll be a lot more to come. So far that's going quite well. Any questions about that one? Or?
Yeah, you have had scribes. I
Yes.
know, I can recall the ophthalmologist had a scribe when I had an appointment.
Yeah.
But it's an individual. Are you saying that now this will strictly be an AI function?
Yeah, that's the way it is going at this point, is that there's AI-based software that acts like a human scribe, but it listens and then it creates a chart for the clinician in real time. So it's actually done when you leave the exam room. The chart is available. So it's quite different. Yeah, I think there's just a few people that still use human scribes, either in the room or a remote human scribe that is listening on a telephone. But this will be a replacement pretty much across the country, and we'll be using that as well. Yeah.
Do these scribes then assign codes to the work that's gone on in the office, and do the payers recognize those as being?
Well, they do. The payers do, yeah, and yes. So the AI software will help create, a code for the encounter, whether it's an evaluation or a procedure. That'll be embedded in the chart. The clinician has to sign off on all this documentation, right? So ultimately, it is a chart that is submitted by the clinician of record. So yeah, the payers will recognize those codes the same as they would ordinarily. Yeah. So on Virginia Mason, one of the things that Anna's wanted us to really embrace is to look and see what other health systems are doing in the area of process improvement and transformation, and really trying to make sure that we are using best practices at Tahoe Forest as we build those capabilities here. A team came and presented about their visit to NUCA already. We sent another team, a 6-member team, including myself, up to Virginia Mason, which is in Seattle. You guys may know Virginia Mason is well known as the earliest adopter in healthcare of the Toyota Production System approach to solving healthcare problems. They've been doing that for 25 years or so. They have had a lot of success in process improvement science, putting together what they call a Kaizen production office, and really applying those techniques and tools across their organization. It's improved quality and employee engagement. They have gone through quite a metamorphosis of late. They're now merged with a number of other hospitals, and they're part of a very large system, and they're having some, I'd say, growing pains as a result of that. But it was very interesting for us to go and see how they do huddles, how they do the production office, how they track data, how they communicate what's going on with process improvement across the organization. And these are some of the things that we'll be very likely to bring back to Tahoe Forest here. Yeah, it was a great trip.
And there's your Tahoe Forest team and their Tahoe Forest Puffers, not to be confused with the Seattle Puffers.
Can you just, real quick, who was the team? Because we talked about this earlier.
Yeah.
Separate conversation, but it's impressive. It's not just the C-suite.
Yeah, we had,
Right, we've got.
We had Quentin Buchanan, he's one of our analysts, and we had Sam Smith, she's our administrative medical director for the outpatient areas. Louis Ward, our COO. Farhad Islam is here, I believe. Farhad's right here. He's our director of business intelligence. Ken Munsterman is in the back. He's the very tall individual. That's why he's always in the back row there. He is the director of specialty services here at the facility, and I'm on the left. Yeah, it's a great team. Thank you.
So we're early days of our 5,000 Voices effort. And, but I do want to I wanted to bring back just a summary of, we did actually have a meeting, a focus group, if you will, with the Incline Village Community Foundation, Incline Village Hospital Community Foundation meeting. And again, I won't read them word for word to you, but, some key takeaways were, we want some metrics. We'd like to, form sort of an advisory committee. We want to know, we want you to share kind of a market analysis with us, so we're informed, because they definitely want to provide input kind of as a leadership team. They talked about the importance of engaging everyone, including second homeowners or people who might not live full-time in the region. They wanted to have open reporting, and then they really would like to have a refined vision that incorporates in it both the universal things that we're going to do, but also regional specific things. If we are, they want to make sure that if we're going to be doing something regionally, that we start to talk about it in that way. So those are just some key takeaways from our initial discussion with the Incline Foundation Board. I will go to the next. Just again, this is you saw this before. You saw the lovely picture last month with Mary and Louie and Sarah at the football game, the homecoming game. Sorry, I need to be very accurate there. And we talked about some data, but we wanted to just put the data up so the community can follow along too. So again, I won't read all of this to you, but this is just to make sure that the community knows what kind of data we got. And again, wanted to show that to you all. This on this slide, this is really about our commitment to workforce excellence, and I do have one correction on this slide, and it's also going to be a correction that applies to my executive report, and I'll tell you where the correction is for Sarah. But we have not validated actually that more than 70 staff completed training this fall. We think it's more than that. So I would ask the board if I can bring back a validated number next month, and that we make note that that is not a validated data point, and that is located also on page 116, bullet point 3, sentence 1 in the consolidated executive report. So I just wanted to say we have had several events where we have recognized our staff for their essential contributions, including our values awards. We added cochlear implants, and though we've started in a very scoped and scaled way, this is life-changing for the people who get this surgery. It's extremely life-changing for them. We extended what's called the Peace Within Resilience program through 2026 to support staff well-being. And then we also have ensured continuity in cardiac rehab, as Dr. Skolnick is succeeding Dr. Lombard, who we just talked about recently, who served in our community for more than 44 years. So just wanted to recognize that's a lot of service, and we wish him well. I know he's still going to be on staff, but he won't be practicing. But we are happy that he'll remain as a member of the medical staff. By the numbers, I just wanted to quickly put some numbers up there for you. I'm not going to read them all, but I just wanted to pull out the the surgery team, I just want to pull this out. This is really around our climate action work. And the surgery team has turned 870 pounds of plastic into decking material. So I just wanted to point that out. And we met with the North Tahoe Citizen Climate Lobby. And we are, as you heard from Dylan last month, we are developing a climate action plan. And I'll just pause there. That concludes my formal remarks, and I'm happy to answer any questions. The team, many of members of the team are here too, if you have any details you want us to go over. Thank you.
Comments, questions?
Comments?
No, great
Yeah.
report.
Yep.
Yes, thank you. From the audience, any comments, questions? Yes, great report. Thank you, thank you. Item 13, medical staff executive committee consent agenda.
Okay, so this is a long report tonight, but I think we can keep it pretty simple, I'm hoping. Thank God Rob isn't here. No, just kidding.
You should be walking in any minute.
There shortly, don't you worry.
He's on the phone.
So it starts out with a new privilege for rheumatology. And we have a potential part-time rheumatologist that's considering joining the staff. And so we started out with privileging forms. We got his input on it, and we used some standards. And there's nothing special about the privileging form. It's your boilerplate basic privileging form. And I thought I would just skip beyond that, unless you have specific questions for that policy. Okay. Privileges with changes. So the critical care privileges, the family medicine privileges, the pulmonary privileges, and the urgent care privileges all have changes. But they're not as big as one might think initially. The family practice privileges have the ski clinic removed from them and anything that was associated with that, and then those things all got put into the urgent care privileging. So that's those two, and the same thing happened with critical care, where endoscopic bronchoscopy got moved from critical care, from pulmonary to critical care. Those are the main changes. And there are a few things that went along with that. So in the, let's see, things to do with monitoring devices and the arterial line insertions had some modifications to them. But basically, that summarizes the major changes in the privileging. Do you have questions about that, or do you want me to go in greater detail?
I just have a question. You said that it's a common template that's used for each of them based from their specialty.
That's for rheumatology,
Oh,
correct?
just for rheumatology.
Well, no, all specialties have boilerplates that we then take and modify. And the boilerplates come from a number of different locations. Dorothy's an expert at pulling them up.
Okay. So again, we have some source that we're using. We're not just.
Oh, yeah, we're not making them up.
Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so new policies. There's a med staff meetings policy, which just sets up some expectations for how meetings are run and when items can be added to the agenda. And it just is creating some standardization so that the medical staff office doesn't lose their mind with the large number of meetings we now have. Any further questions on that one? Okay, so the next one is respiratory therapy protocol, and I'm trying to come up with where that one is here so I can look at it. Dorothy, do you remember what the changes are in that one? I'm looking for it.
That was the brand new.
Oh, that's right, that's brand new. Jan, okay, here we go.
It's a protocol, isn't it?
So the purpose of this policy is to avoid inconsistent care delivery or delays in escalation of therapy or unnecessary physician callbacks. And so it's standardizing the respiratory therapy protocols. Do you want more details on that one? Okay. All right. Thank you, Dorothy. I think this is yours, too. You might be giving that back to me in a minute. Okay. All right. The next is the standardized procedures for oxygen administration and pulse oximetry. And this is a new policy, but it's combining things from other policies. Here we go. Thank you. I do better with paper.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's standardized timing for when you initiate oxygen therapy and when you do pulse oximetry monitoring in order to avoid unnecessary delays or missed deteriorations, things like that. Again, further questions on that one? Okay.
I think, well, I had one question. These are attached to the physician orders? Somewhere in that I read that. Either with the,
This is not attached to the physician orders. This is just the policy or a standardized procedure so that without needing a physician's order, this will be instituted automatically.
okay. Because there was something where it was going to be attached to the physician order. Was it the protocol? That's okay. I'll find it later.
Well, so RTs may initiate therapy independently under this standardized procedure and must place the order under the attending physician's name for co-signature.
Okay.
Do you think that's what you were talking about?
Yeah,
Okay. All right. So that just means that the doctor has to approve that they did it.
right.
Yeah. Okay. And so the next is Code C. Thank you. And so this is for cesarean sections, especially now that we're doing TOLACs. We are creating a standardized process for rapid mobilization for an obstetrical emergency. So instead of a code blue or some of the other codes we have, this is just a code C for cesarean section. So it creates an automated response team if there's an emergency C-section or other OB emergency. More questions on that?
No.
All right. So next is policies with changes, and there is a massive list of those. And in looking through the list, I didn't see any I felt needed to be pulled out for discussion, but I'm happy if anybody else did pull some out that needed discussion to go over them. Perfect timing. No questions. We're done, no questions, no. There's nothing to see here.
List of 10.
By the way, Rob, now that you are here in person, you asked a question about courtesy staff to me, and I didn't answer that during the closed session, but it's not a privileged piece of information. Would it be okay if I just commented on that here briefly? One sentence?
Yes.
Okay. So courtesy staff is something that allows, it's what Renown calls it, affiliate staff.
Affiliate staff.
And so it allows somebody who's not here regularly but who fills in to have a role but not have to have the obligations or the opportunities of a full medical staff membership. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. So any further questions on the procedures and policies?
What a
Nope.
ton of work, thank you.
Yeah, well, you can thank, I mean, if it hadn't been like this, I would have been going through each one of them, and it's everybody down to the basic levels. I mean, Jan can speak to this. It's a huge job, and they did the work for me, so I feel really blessed, yeah.
There's one column in particular, just the summary of changes, which is critically important. And, I mean, so many of them are formatting.
Right.
We don't need to see that policy.
Or
if,
omitted the
yeah.
he, she, you know,
Yeah,
I mean, just.
so it's great to be able to just scan through a list of however many this is,
Exactly.
100-something policies, and just see if there's anything that would warrant conversation. But again, acknowledge the amount of work that goes into creating a list as concise as this, so thank you.
Would you like a motion? No questions.
Questions, comments? Yeah, well, one last chance. All right, from the audience, any comments, questions? Would like a motion now?
I move that we approve the MEC's consent agenda as presented.
I second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, approved 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item 14, consent calendar. These are items expected to be routine and non-controversial, but we do have the opportunity to pull any of these should they warrant any further discussion. Does the board wish to pull any items from the consent calendar? From the audience, any items? No. All right, so we'd be looking for a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I would move approval of the consent agenda.
I'll second that. Dale?
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, approved 5-0. Thank you very much. Items for board action, 15.1, fiscal year 2025 audited financial statements. I believe we have some folks on Zoom being very patient. Thank you for joining, and look forward to the conversation. Krista, are you going to kick us off, or are we going to?
We should be able to share it on our end, I think. Braden, you're going to pull that up for us.
There we go. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Can everybody see the presentation here in the room? Perfect. Thank you for the thumbs up, and appreciate the opportunity to present to you this evening, and we appreciate your patience. We know that this item was the highlight of the agenda, so appreciate everybody hanging in there for this item. We are going to go through in the materials that those of you that received materials ahead of time. We have this presentation as well as the draft financial statements for your review. We're really just going to work through the slide deck here and don't intend to go through the financial statements. However, if you do have information or questions on the financial statements that we don't cover in our remarks, please shout out. We'd be happy to address those questions that you do have. And just a note that the financial statements that you have are labeled draft. Those are essentially final. We've just got a few I's to dot and T's to cross after this meeting, but we're prepared to issue and have gone through all of our reviews on those financial statements. So you are looking at final information. As the slide notes, our brief agenda here this evening, we'll talk about the scope of services related to your 2025 financial statement audit, talk about the auditor opinion and reports that we anticipate issuing, significant audit risks that we had identified in the planning process and how we address those, as well as matters that are required to be communicated to the board of directors and financial highlights. So scope of services, we performed the annual combined multiple entities into the Tahoe Forest Hospital District reporting entity financial statements, the audit for that reporting entity as of and for the year ended June 30th, 2025. Most importantly on this slide is the information on the right-hand side of the screen, which is the non-attest services that we perform, both in conjunction with this audit as well as other services for the district. And this is important because there are some things that auditors may do for their clients which potentially could impair their independence with respect to the audit. And so all the items, so it's important for you to understand what else we're doing. And all these items listed do not impair our independence with respect to the 2025 audit. We believe that we're independent with respect to the district. So for your audit opinion and the related reports, we're happy to report that we have an unmodified opinion on your financial statements, those combined financial statements as of and for the year ended June 30th, 2025. And that unmodified opinion means that we believe as your auditors that those financial statements, which are the product and responsibility of your management team, are fairly stated in all material respects in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. So it's the highest level of assurance that we can provide and classic clean opinion on your financial statements. So it is certainly something that you've received in in past audits and may have expected in this audit. You don't have to crank back. Braden, you can go to the next slide. But that doesn't mean it's not an important achievement for the organization. It's always great to get a clean audit opinion, and that's what you have for 2025. So let's talk about what goes into that clean opinion, and we'll start with the significant audit risks that we've identified and the procedures that we did and the findings that we had related to that. And to go through that, I'll turn it over to Justin.
Perfect. Thanks, Brian. So this slide, as far as the naming here, significant risks identified, really terminology from our professional standards here, but really what these are not necessarily risks that were unique that we found as it relates to Tahoe, really kind of inherent risks for any entity similar to Tahoe Forest. And really some of those risks here are those areas that really drive a lot of estimation. The first one being the valuation of patient accounts receivable and patient service revenue. A lot of estimation goes in to deriving that value that you see on your financial statements. And so with that, we put a lot of emphasis on the work performed over that area. The first kind of item we do and look at is what we call a hindsight or a look back analysis. So we look at what AR was in the previous year, and then we look at cash collections subsequent to that to really ensure that that number was appropriate based on the cash received subsequent to year end. In conjunction with that, we also do a subsequent cash receipt analysis, which looks at your current year AR balance, and then we really look at collections around 2 to 3 months subsequent to that, so really through September 30th, 2025, to ensure that that number is trending and projecting as we'd expect it to be. In conjunction with that, we also test the internal controls, ensuring controls are appropriate, as well as some detail testing over cutoff. And from the results kind of our procedures performed, we found the revenue recognition and valuation to be appropriate. The next item is that cutoff of net patient service revenue, really just focusing on charges and revenue being captured in the correct period. A big risk, just kind of depending on timing, inpatients, et cetera, and when they get discharged. And so to look at that, we do, like I said, the control aspect of it in conjunction with looking at charges posted in the last month of the year and that first month of the next fiscal year, and really looking for anomalies or things in the incorrect period. Similar to that above, we found cutoff to be appropriate. The last one on here is the management override of controls. This is really where you would see misappropriation, fraud. It's typically done via circumventing controls or management override. So we really kind of look at this as in a kind of a multifaceted approach. One, doing inquiries with those charged with governance. So members of management, members of the board. We also have our internal discussions around that. And then we look at targeted journal entries. So really drilling into entries, looking for things posted in maybe holidays, things on weekends, things that you just wouldn't expect to see. And very similar, like I said, to that above, did not observe in any instances of management override. These next handful of slides here are really our required communications with those charged with governance. This will also be very consistent in a summarized version of that AUC 260 or governance letter that would have been included in the packet as well. The first one here is really just to highlight our responsibility under U.S. generally accepted auditing standards. The first one is to express an opinion on the financial statements prepared by management with your oversight, and to ensure that that's presented and really correct and fairly presented in accordance with U.S. GAAP. That's what Brian highlighted earlier with that opinion. The second one is to make sure that we're performing our audit in accordance with the U.S. generally accepted auditing standards, as well as those issued from the state controller's minimum audit requirements for special purpose districts, which is really to design our audit to obtain reasonable rather than absolute assurance over the financial statements. Bullet 3 here, we do consider internal controls over financial reporting, really for the basis of designing our procedures, but we do not opine any opinion on internal controls. And the last one is that we would communicate any findings that are in our judgment relevant to your role in overseeing the Tahoe Forest Hospital District. But by no means do we try to find items or things to bring to your attention. So like I said, continuing on with these communications, the plan, scope, and timing of the audit required to communicate this under our standards. We communicated this via our kind of planning engagement letter that was sent in August, and really kind of stuck with that timeline and no anomalies or changes from that letter. As part of our audit, as I mentioned kind of in that significant risk slide, we do look at and are required to look at really the estimates to the organization, getting an understanding on how are those estimates derived, as well as the accounting policies to support that. And so based on the procedures performed, we found the estimates and the means in which those estimates are derived to be appropriate. Also, no significant changes in accounting policies or the underlying estimates themselves for 2025. As far as kind of identifying and highlighting key disclosures, we do kind of run through that and kind of as we make our judgment, really noting those that we would deem to be significant. I'd say the majority of those are going to be things you'd expect to see. The fair value measurement, kind of financial instruments, making sure that those are reported correctly. Like I said, the valuation of AR, long-term debt, capital assets, etc. And so we do like to highlight that, like I said, as part of our required communications. The next one here is significant accounting policies or unusual transactions. And really what I'll highlight here is outside of the policies that were in place as it relates to financial reporting in previous years, there were no changes to that. There were, however, two standards that were applicable and adopted in the current year. Those are GASB Statement 101, which relates to compensated absences, and GASB Statement 102, which is certain risk disclosures. These standards here did not have an overly significant impact to the district, but there was some impact related to the GASB 101. That standard there, and you'll see it in a future slide as I chat about the an uncorrected misstatement, but that standard there really is a standard that kind of fine-tunes the requirements related to accruals over those compensated absences. Historically, it maybe would just capture PTO hours, at the hours times the rate. This standard expands it even further to say, hey, you also need to be accruing for the taxes that are going to be paid out of that, and really kind of focuses on making sure that accrual is as accurate as possible. As it relates to the application of this standard, it does get applied retrospectively, is kind of how the guidance is laid out. And in about a slide or two, I'll kind of highlight what that means here, as well as kind of what that uncorrected misstatement relates to. And here we go, right on next to it. So the first thing I'll highlight here, which is kudos to management, is there's no material corrected misstatements, which really means there was no items that we required or said, hey, management, this needs to be adjusted or your financial statements are materially misstated. So none of that was detected during the audit. There was one uncorrected misstatement, and really what this means is an uncorrected misstatement is something we would deem insignificant or immaterial to the financial statements as a whole. By no means does management have to make those entries because those statements would still be materially correct. However, we are required to communicate that to you. And the item here that you're going to note is really a 100% impact to the GASB 101 implementation in the current year. As I mentioned, that standard does require a retrospective approach, meaning you not only carry that update in the current year, you have to carry it through the prior year, which means a restatement of your prior year. In the current year, kind of looking at what that impact would have been, management, as well as us kind of and agreed with management, is that the impact here is about 1.6 million, that it wasn't large enough or material enough to actually go back and restate the prior year. And so what management determined was to really just flush that expense through the current year. And as a result, we had a proposed adjustment for that. But what I'll highlight with this is the approach taken is very consistent with others you'd see. It's not really worth the time, the effort to go back and restate something for this dollar value here. But then also immediately following your year. So as of 7/1/2025, this automatically corrects itself. So really no impact on a go-forward basis, and really just a one-time item, as I mentioned, really tied to that GASB 101. One other item here I'll call out that will be something kind of on a go-forward basis that you'll see is Typically for hospital districts under GASB standards, you would also show in a footnote to the financial statements your blended component units. And what a blended component unit is in the case for Tahoe Forest Hospital District is the two foundations that roll up into that combined financial statements. Typically, you'd see if those were material, a footnote just highlighting of the total combined assets, here's what's related to our blended component units. Given those foundations are still not overly significant, didn't really warrant having that bifurcation in the footnote. In addition, those foundations also do get standalones, so very easy and accessible to see what that composition would have been. But I did just want to highlight this because going forward, as the foundations start to generate, a lot more contributions going kind of in the next few years, you may see that footnote make its way into future financial statements. And right here, really rounding it out, is kind of those other required communications. If we had any difficulties encountered during the audit, we would have brought that to your attention, but nothing there to report. No disagreements with management throughout the course of the audit. We're not aware of anything that would affect the content of the audit report that we issue. Not aware of management consulting with other accountants over either sensitive matters or matters that maybe they disagree on our conclusions with during the audit. The one here with the management representation letter, this is really just to give you kind of a heads up that we do ask management to sign a representation letter. This letter does get dated the exact same date we would issue our report, and it's really management's ownership over the financial statements themselves. And then the last one here is no other significant findings or issues to report. As Brian mentioned, a very clean audit, and yeah, it was smooth from start to finish here. And so moving forward here on the financial highlights, I'll turn it over to Braden to run through those.
Awesome, thank you. So I'm going to go over a few key metrics and financial ratios. Before we get into the numbers, though, the graphs show the current and prior 2 years. Current year being the black shade, 2024 and 2023 being the green and purple, respectively. And then the figures are in millions when we exclude the Truckee Surgery Center. So assets and deferred outflows first. They remained relatively consistent year over year, the exception of assets limited to use, which saw a larger than usual increase. But first, we're going to start with cash and just go left to right. Cash decreased by $22 million, but a drop in cash is not inherently bad, especially when juxtaposed with an increase in assets limited to use like we see here. We see this because cash purchases of assets limited to use outpaced sales by about $50 million this year, which is causing that opposing fluctuation in these two balances. Net cash flows produced by operating activities, though, were positive at about $36 million in financial year 25. So not losing cash by any means, just using and allocating it. Then, as mentioned, assets limited to use increased by about $62 million. Largely due to transfers from cash, but there was also about $6 million in fair value appreciation and $5 million in investment income doing some of the lifting as well, which is great to see. Patient AR increased by about $9 million from the prior year. We'll discuss this a bit more in further slides, but the district's days in AR ratio has remained unchanged year over year. So this increase is a direct product of growing net patient service revenue. That increase was about $54 million from 2024, so relatively the same percentage of revenue as in AR at year end in 2025. It's just that revenue is magnitude larger, so that AR amount is larger too. Capital assets remain steady year over year, and then other assets increased by about $21 million, which is larger than usual. Included in other assets are investments held at the foundations, and so it may be repeat information for some of our presentation of the foundation financials, but in short, the foundations had investment contributions and made other purchases of investments, which grew this balance from about $3 million in the prior year to $15 million in the current year, and makes up the majority of this change that you see here. Liabilities and net position. Now, a lot less going on here. Slight increase in current liabilities of $10 million. Partly due to increased operational activity and partly due to timing, but nothing out of the ordinary. Steady decrease in long-term liabilities as expected. No new debt and regular payments make for a steadily decreasing long-term liability balance. Then lastly is net position, and it's up $63 million or 20% from prior year, which is pretty significant. This is due to both operating and non-operating performance. Operating income was $25 million for the year, and the non-operating accounting for the remaining 38. Some additional context: prior year operating income was $14 million, and non-operating was $24 million. So an increase to both of over $10 million year over year. The growth in operating income is strongly tied with maintenance of operating expenses as a percentage of operating revenues, which we'll see the district does a phenomenal job of in the next slide. Then for non-operating, the pickup this year were from those large contributions the foundations received and then made their way into investments we just discussed. This slide is a statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position. These charts show operating expenses essentially as a percentage of total operating revenues. And so total operating revenues are up about $50 million, which is a mix of volumes and charge increases and predominantly in outpatient. Then as just mentioned, expenses as a percentage of revenues have remained incredibly consistent year over year. As you see, these pie charts look almost identical. The only change is per dollar earned. It was slightly less in salaries costs and slightly more in supplies costs for financial year 25 compared to financial year 24, but only a percent point change year over year. Not much else to say other than these are very positive results from the year. Now I'm going to go through a few key ratios. These graphs will show the current year and the prior 2 years. The graphs also include two comparable organizations, which are the same organizations used in the prior year presentations for consistency, as well as the S&P U.S. not-for-profit healthcare standalone hospital median financial ratios. It's a handful, but it's a great benchmark. And those are in 2024. They're a year in arrears as usual. And so first is days cash and investments ratio. It's a product of cash and investments to operating expenses. So if cash or investments go up, then this ratio goes up. If expenses go up, this ratio will go down. In the current year, demonstrably, cash and investments won that battle, which resulted in the ratio increasing slightly year over year. You'll notice, too, that the district is outperforming or essentially matching all of the comp groups presented, which indicates a relatively strong cash position. And then the ratio is also increasing steadily year over year, which is great to see. It demonstrates positive growth of that cash position in relation to the growth of expenses, which is important. Next is days accounts receivable ratio, and this is a product of net operating revenue to accounts receivable, and it essentially indicates how long AR sits before collection. And what I mentioned earlier is that it has gone relatively unchanged year over year. So on average in 2025, it took 62 days to collect on AR, which is very, very consistent with the prior years. Collections are quicker than the comparable organizations, but slightly below the national median, which has historically been the case on both fronts, and not a bad place to be. Overall, very consistent year over year, and nothing out of the ordinary to note.
Excuse me, I have a question.
Salaries and... Yeah, of course.
Could you go one more time, being the new guy? The comp A, comp B, and the BB minus one more time for me? I just want to make sure I understand that, and then you can continue on. Thank you.
Yeah, so these are comparable organizations that we can match as closely to the district as possible. And these are the same comparable organizations, and we've worked with Crystal in the past, too, to make sure that they match up as best that we can. And then the BBB
And I'm sorry, just a follow-up question. Matches what? Match in size, match in finance? Just curious.
The size, the location.
Yeah.
Sorry, Justin, if you have...
Oh, no, yeah, I was going to say, and geography as well. Tahoe Forest being, a district hospital in a very kind of Tahoe-ish area, right, where you get a lot of kind of outside visitors. You got a lot of different kind of volume to the business there. It's fairly hard to get exact comparable groups. I mean, we could find things in other states to get there. But what we're looking at here is either one, their geography is close, so maybe they are surrounding Tahoe or the Reno market or close to, in a kind of Sacramento-ish area. Really looking for those that would be relatively comparable in size, but just to give somewhat of a benchmark. But as I mentioned, very difficult to get a real true match for Tahoe Forest Hospital District. Very unique, as I mentioned, with the location to it.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks, Justin. Okay, so two more ratios to go over really quickly. The first here being salaries and benefits as the percentage of net revenue. And then, so this ratio shows how much of the net revenue earned was spent on salaries and benefits. Essentially, from 2024 to 2025, net revenue per dollar earned was about 3% less expensive in payroll, which is an indicator of improved operational performance. The other thing to mention that sticks out on this slide is that payroll as a percentage of net revenue is higher than the comp groups. The comp groups and the organizations included in the national median are standalone hospitals which generally do not employ their own physicians. And so it's really not surprising to see this number higher for the district, and it's very consistent with what we would expect from prior years. Last but importantly not least is operating margin, which is just what percentage of your operating revenue were you able to keep after operating expenses. That amount continues to steadily improve year over year, and in 2025 was nearly 7%. Ultimately, it speaks to the strength of the team and leadership, as you can see, well above comparable organizations' performance. You may say, well, not Comp A here, that bar stands well above the rest, but some quick perspective there. Operating margin was only 1% last year and has historically been close to that national median figure you see farthest to the right. In financial year 25, they just had some activity that was outside of their normal course of business that inflates this metric, and it's expected to be in line with the national median again in future years, but since we've used it in the past, we wanted to make sure we were consistently showing it again. However, again, it's outside of the normal course of business, and will be much closer to that 1% that they were last year in future years. And I just wanted to point this out because despite that bar being taller for this year, the year-over-year positive operating margin and growth the district demonstrates is objectively a much better indication of strong operations. Those are the end of our remarks. If there are any questions for us, we're happy to take them.
Mine out.
None.
None? Not
No,
even about
really?
Gatsby
No,
101?
nothing?
Okay.
I did have a question that is more of something that surprised me. With all the talk of supply costs going up, they remain relatively flat. I mean, 15% to 16% year over year as far as percent of revenue. I would have expected that to have gone up a little bit more, or am I misunderstanding how that's calculated?
No, you're not. I mean, it's the calculation on the net revenue. So we did see increases in oncology pharmaceuticals, not as much increases in some of the other categories. So it's dependent on the care plans and what exactly we're utilizing. And we've gotten a bit better at negotiating with some of our vendors for lower costs, trying to offset those areas where we're seeing increased costs.
To let them off this easy? No questions? No?
If I may, GASB 101, because that pronouncement was retroactive, most of the adjustment that was still not deemed material would have affected 2024. And so if we had actually restated 2024, it would have only been about, I think, about a $200,000 adjustment to 2025. So we took the impact of 2 years' worth of this pronouncement and just put it into 1 year. And then we'll post this and we'll be good going forward. So unless another new pronouncement comes out, and then we'll deal with that.
Pretty good for at least a year, I think, maybe.
Oh, good, thank you.
Michael, I don't have any questions, thank you. I do have a comment. I mean, one of the things that jumps out at me as I go through this is the summary where it says that they found no difficulties with management, no differences with management, and no circumstances that would affect the outcome of their audit. And I think that's just a huge credit to Crystal and to Jay and to their team for putting all of this together. Bouquets to each and every one of you, Crystal. It's just just amazing. And I also would recommend for your reading the management discussion that is in the packet, and I think it begins on page 176. And it's a remarkable read, really, because it talks about how we got to where we are today, and then talks about the challenges that or opportunities that we see in front of us. And I think it's so well put together that it's just kind of,
No, I leveraged some of our joint work that we did when we presented the budget and kind of leveraged some of that conversation into the management discussion part, so.
Well, you did it very well. However it came together beautifully, and I just really recommend that everybody read that. So thank you. And thank you to the auditors as well.
Of course, thank you.
Get a motion?
Nothing more from the board. From the audience, any comments, questions?
Thank you, Jake.
All right. With that, we would be looking for a motion to approve.
I would, Michael, make a motion that we approve the 2024-2025 audited financial statements.
I second that.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved 5-0. Thank you, Crystal. Thank you, everyone on the
Thank
the
you,
call.
Brian,
Appreciate it.
Justin, Braden.
Thank you.
Till next year.
Good evening.
Till next year.
All right, the next two items, I believe, have to do with President and CEO incentive comp. Discussions will be led by our exec comp committee. So Alice or Dale, are you going to?
Yes, I'll go ahead and lead it off.
Okay.
This has been an unusual year in that our CEO hasn't been here for the full fiscal year, and during the fiscal year is when we set our incentive compensation goals. And so what we did this year is we looked at the stakeholders during our search gave us goals that they wanted for our new CEO that we should be looking for. And we took those and developed them into incentive comp criteria for that period of the 24-25 fiscal year, which was March through June 30th, March 10th through June 30th. And reviewed those during that period of time and also got input from our CEO, Anna Roth, on how she saw herself meeting those goals. The committee has come up with a recommendation. I could go over the the criteria if you'd like. They're more, what's the word?
Subjective.
Subjective than having discrete criteria that can be measured. So again, it's something different that we've done this year because again, it's a different year for us with a CEO who's only been here for part of the year. And the incentive criteria that the whole organization got was already worked on. So again, we didn't want to jeopardize that work and also acknowledging that we did have some special criteria for our new CEO. So in talking in the incentive comp committee, our thought had been around, again, like I said, the stakeholder input based on trust, relationship, promoting culture of collaboration, enhanced quality and safety, evaluation and expanding health programs, improving organizational engagement, and I don't have the second page. Improving organizational engagement. So again, we have discussed those and have made the decision that she has met all of those, 100% of those goals. And I think we have a motion for our incentive comp for 2025. Oh, I'm sorry, public comment. Board comment.
Board comment.
And what Director Wong is providing is a recommendation from the Executive Comp Committee, and obviously the whole full board then
Right.
has to make a decision whether or
vote
not
on
they
it.
want to follow that or not.
Yep.
So do we have any comments from the board?
I just want clarification, because it says we're retroactively and proactively. Is this too? Because I see here March 2025 to June 2020. So, but I was understanding it's 2026. So is that the
No,
next?
that's a
No,
next.
that's the
next comment,
Next,
correct?
yeah.
Yeah, effectively, what we were looking at here was what really broke down to the first 100 days.
Yeah.
And when Anna was onboarded, we had set expectations of what we as a board were hoping to see in those first 100 days. I don't think it was defined as that, but, broke down to about that. And what Alice has shared is that, we collectively discussed and agreed that 100% of those expectations were met.
And any comments from our audience? So are we ready for a motion?
I can
I believe so.
give that motion. It's based on the results of the revised incentive criteria. It's clear that we believe Anna has met or exceeded the revised fiscal 2025 goals, and we suggest that the full board approve an incentive compensation of 30% of her base salary using the tax payday methodology for the period she was employed, March 10 through June 30, during the fiscal year ending 2025, specifically $60,577.02.
Good thing they're still making pennies.
Yeah,
No, they're not.
no, they're not. Yeah, they just stopped.
Perhaps one of the longest motions of all time.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Well stated. We'll look for a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, approved 5-0. Thank you very much. If I can just add a quick,
Yeah, I wanted to thank Anna for the enthusiasm and the boots to the ground as soon as she showed up, and really demonstrated those goals that we wanted for her. If we looked at our engagement survey, our physician relationships, all of those things that came under those subjective criteria, we want to say thank you for doing that. It sets the high bar, though, for you.
You set a high bar for yourself.
Yeah, right.
yeah, building on that, I think anytime there's change, organizational change, it can be a risk. It can be difficult for the organization, and our, unanimous consensus on all subjective, measures met here. We just couldn't be more excited to have you here, and you blew us away with, what you accomplished in the first 100 days. Primarily, I think what we're looking for and what, each of these really speaks to is just integration into the organization, into the community, not only becoming part of it, but also working to influence it. And your impact in just such a short time has been remarkable. So thank you.
Okay.
Looking ahead, item 15.3, we want to make sure it isn't a fluke, though. That was just a good start. Item 15.3, we're looking at incentive comp metrics for fiscal year 2026.
And we have those in your packet, and they go back to the same format that we followed through the years. We take the aspirational goals for the annual strategic plan, and we look at those for our incentive comp criteria. And it's the template that we've used all along. I'm not to say that next year it will look like this at all for 26, 27. But in any event, we looked at the community as one of the criteria. And do you want me to go through and read those? Otherwise, you have them in your packet. Some of you don't look like you have it in your packet.
I think they're worth reading, yeah.
Yeah, so the engagement of greater than 5,000 people to share community priorities. Again, Anna's had these to her, to herself, so that she can be working on those, even though we're already into the fiscal year. We have service, and that's to reduce primary care, third next available appointment for patients to 30 days. And again, we've, on this particular incentive criteria dashboard, we have percentages that are going to be allocated. So community is worth 15%, Service is worth 15%, and that's the 30-day reduction to primary care, third next available appointment. Quality, we have 15%, and that's to pursue our age-friendly geriatric emergency department. People is 15%, and that's to develop and implement workforce strategy. And we're really looking at that because of retirements happening and requirements of needing new physicians to help fill the gap that we have in our access. And then our last one is our financial goal, and that's to meet the budget net income, and that's worth 40%. So I'd like to open up those, a discussion to those criteria to our board at this time.
Again, so for clarity, this was the recommendation of the exec comp committee.
Committee.
Now open for discussion.
First comment is I love how they're lined up with the goals, so thank you so much for doing that. That being said, I think my question or my comment to the executive committee is, with finance, again, we have a great budget we have from there, and our service being not at 30 days yet, I'm curious to the weight of finance at 40% versus perhaps putting it somewhere else, such as service.
We had a discussion about that, and I think there was a promotion of no money, no mission, and that sort of led that, but I can see your point, because for our community, access is really a critical issue. And then we can move that percentage around if the board is in agreement to it.
Rob, I can say that traditionally it's been the largest one because obviously we can't pay out gain sharing or profit sharing if we don't make the money.
Yeah.
So again, it's in keeping with a famous saying that we hear bantered around when we go to these various sessions that we go to, is that no margin, no mission.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got to make the money first before we can give it away.
Yeah, I just want to challenge that
Okay.
a little bit, because I've heard that too,
Yep.
for one too many decades perhaps. This is an incentive comp plan, and so, yes, any business has to make money. Is that the job, though? I mean, meet or exceed budget. So that just means you do a good job setting a budget and meeting it. Is that, from an incentive comp standpoint, is that the job, or is that the stretch goal? And so when I look at the first two, engage greater than 5,000 people to shape community priorities, that is not a softball. That is, I mean, if that is hit, that is a major accomplishment, something I don't think that this organization has ever done. Service, same thing. We've talked about access, getting that to 30 days. If it's been done, it has been done in a long time. That is a huge stretch. Quality, people, the question I'm going to have there is, I don't know how we measure that. So be looking for a little clarity on that.
On quality?
For under people, just develop and implement workforce strategy.
Oh,
So that's the one metric that isn't
It's not quantified, yeah,
Yeah.
it's qualitative.
But yeah, so just building on your comment, do we not value each of these equally, right? Should they all be 20%? Are we saying making money is more important than our people, more important than our
And
service?
if I can add on one more
Yeah,
to that,
okay.
if that's okay, because if 87% of our finances in the outpatient basis,
right.
right, and service, and we get to see more people earlier, I see that as a financial success for the company. I mean, for the company, for the hospital. So I look at this as just because as the finance, I'm just curious that's where I look at it as well, is that that's a success mark that will also help with finance as well.
Well, let me tell you what my thinking
Yeah,
on this
please.
is. If you don't have high quality, you're not going to make the money. Your customers are going to go down to Renown or to UC Davis. If you don't have good physician alignment, in this case, developing and implementing a workforce strategy, you also are going to lose because your workforce is not putting out the way they should. So to me, all five of these are inextricably connected. They really are tightly connected.
I challenge that people one. We were low last year, and yet we were financially successful.
last year, we were,
Yeah.
we ended up real high. I mean, when you
Or
look.
the year before, I guess I'm
Yeah,
saying.
it's the year before, yeah.
Yeah.
But our net has improved
Yeah.
significantly.
Okay.
And I think it's largely because our quality has risen, because our physicians are doing a better job, they're more aligned with the mission, vision, and values of this hospital, and so, you know, when you say maybe finance is too high, but again, my sense is that it's, the only reason the finance is high is because we're doing well on the others. And they're,
Historically, we've done well in finance as
And the
well.
other part too is that we looked at accounts receivable, and the decision was made not to use that again this year because there were too many possibilities of having that be altered because of maybe a property that we were buying, maybe a new service, maybe a liability, that would draw away from accounts receivable.
or, well, it was cash, days cash on hand.
Cash, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
cash on hand.
So, but again, if you want to make a proposal that we shift our focus here slightly, I'm certainly open to an argument.
Again, it was a recommendation from the committee, so again, it's up to the board to make the decision.
Absolutely.
I find the idea of 20% across the board intriguing, and I would not be opposed to that at all. I mean, I do agree that if you set the budget, if it's a correct budget and it's a stretch budget, then meeting it is your job. So.
It's your job, yeah.
Well, in fact, I mean, Dale, building on, I think you make a really important point. These are interconnected. If quality isn't of highest levels, you're probably not going to
Not going to
meet revenue,
financial goals.
you know?
Right, yeah.
If your service, if it takes 100 days to see a doctor, you're not going to meet your finance. To me, actually speaks to they're equally important.
Yeah.
They together combine to create an incredible organization. I also think there's optics around, because affordability is the one thing that isn't, access is talked about in here, affordability is not, but we've heard from the community over and over and over again that is a top priority. And when you look at the balance here, the perception is that we as an organization value making money more than we do the other four. It's perception.
Yep.
But I think one that would be worthy of being mindful of, just knowing the current climate and the push towards affordability.
So are you looking at possibly just making them all even of the 20%? Because then it just is the discretion of the board how we want to do that.
Yeah.
As I look across the five fields here, there isn't any that I would not lift, you know? I mean, I think they're all of equal value.
Okay, so your proposal then, Mary, is to switch them all to 20%?
That would be my recommendation. It was actually somebody else's recommendation, but I'm just agreeing with it.
Well, you said it first, so now it's on record for you.
You agreed to it.
Congratulations.
I think I might have been the one that said it, so I'll take the blame on that.
Yeah.
It's on video, so, can't escape it. So it's, I mean, that's a different direction. It's different than, and I think when I first joined the board 5, whatever plus years ago, that was almost 70%. I mean, it was a high number.
It used to be 80%.
It used to be 80%.
Yeah.
So I personally am very pleased to see it move in the right direction. But again, I think it's a worthy discussion around, do we value all 5 of our peaks equally?
Yeah.
Again, this is something that we're doing this year. It's based on the format we've used in the past. We are looking at something a little bit different for the coming years. And I think that if we made them all equal, that, again, it's for the fiscal year, and that we may see where other criteria will fall out for the following year. So I'd like to see it also, just even it all out to 20%.
You
For
want to make
each of
that
the-
motion?
Okay, I can do that. I move that for the fiscal year 2026 President and CEO incentive compensation criteria, that each of the,
Can I interrupt before you,
Oh.
just,
oh, you
with
didn't,
the actual metrics, is there any discussion on that? We also need
Yeah.
input from the audience.
Okay, so
So we go through them one by one. So engage greater than 5,000 people. Any comment or concerns about that? Nope.
service.
Next available appointment to 30 days. Comments, questions, concerns? No. Quality, pursue age-friendly health system. No. Meter, I'm going to skip to finance, meter exceed budget, budgeted net income.
I guess my one question for community, I'm assuming, like, again, I don't assume, so maybe I just need to speak out loud, is that I'm assuming 5,000 people, like, we'll have data of 5,000
Yes,
people.
we
I'm
already
assuming.
have data.
You have data
That
on-
we're
yeah,
starting
sorry,
on it.
okay.
We have Nelson
That's what I
ratings.
kind of assumed, but I wanted to.
48
make
people,
sure.
yeah, from a
Yeah, I
football
saw
game.
that. Oh, I saw that. Perfect, okay. Then I have, continue on.
So the final, just under people, I would just, from the exec comp committee, I would appreciate your thoughts on develop and implement workforce strategy. How would we determine if that had been achieved or not?
Well, we could look at a couple of things. One of them is our turnover in staffing, whether we're filling those gaps where we don't have anybody, like the HR chief. What about in family practice physicians? We're short on those as well. I mean, we could look at everything that we're short on and get a report from Human Resources and look at that as part of our metrics.
I think those are all great. I think my concern is if we're going to, if we're going to ask or, talk to Anna about, achieving that goal.
Is it specific enough?
Yeah, what does that look
Yeah,
like? How does
I-
she know she's on the right track?
I understand what you're saying, yeah, yep.
Well, I guess when I see that as like a development, like, is that what I'm hearing, like develop, at the end of the year, this is my development and implement workforce strategy for the next 3 years. This is my plan. That's kind of how I read it as.
Yeah.
Versus a metric of like saying, because again, in the beginning, you have to have a strategy, then the metrics begin. So this is the first full year that we say, okay, we 20% for a plan that we approve, that is, because it is a kind of a.
I think that waits until the end where she presents what she's done, and then we can determine how much of it we want to give. And again, I think that it's the plan based on data that she's collecting now of where we have a need for staffing and how they're going to work to develop those positions.
There was some smiling going on over. Did you have comments? You're free to comment.
Okay, good. So I just want to say that, it's November. The fiscal year ends in June, as we've just talked about. If you know our average time to hire, using FTEs and that sort of thing positions us to essentially, it will give no time for us to do thought around the 2 large clinics that we're about to open, and whether we want to do things the same or not. So I think that we actually brought the workforce strategy came from, I think, our September meeting, when we said we would bring back a workforce strategy, part of the True North strategy, because it's important. I mean, I do want to say that first of all, I really appreciate the opportunity to have the discussion. I appreciate all the thought that went into it. And I appreciate we're in a year of planning and alignment, which means we may come back, by June with a completely different approach to workforce. Or we will just be doing things the way we've always done things, and that may make sense. And we may come back and say, guess what? We've been doing things the best way possible, and we want to continue to do more of what we've been doing at a faster rate. But we might come back and say, we might change the model. We might change we might change the weighting of what kinds of providers we have. So I do think that workforce, and you saw, workforce is a very significant chunk of our expenditures. And so it really, just moving forward without thinking about it, I think is, would maybe be a lost opportunity. So I would love to bring a strategy, and that would be in fact then a subjective. For this year, it wouldn't be outcome-based other than a deliverable, a 1 or a 0. But I do think that I would like to bring a thoughtful strategy to the board, And even so, that would be, this is about 7 months to June, so that would be at breakneck speed, to be honest, because we have been without a CHRO since I've been here. So we have like a lot of, I think, baseline work to do to be able to come back with a thoughtful strategy. I will just say that it may come in segments. We will obviously start with a workforce strategy to staff those clinics, that, because they're opening at the, early next fiscal year. But if that would be something the board could consider, I think that is what we were intending. If there's a discomfort with that, we can also maybe match that with some kind of outcome measure if it felt better.
Yeah, I personally wasn't questioning the importance and the urgency of the work. It's just how do we measure it? And if the board's comfortable with more of a binary, we have a strategy or we don't, then, that is a metric.
And can we go ahead and approve these criteria with a metric to follow for that?
I would say a metric in a year, to be honest with you.
Well, what I propose is, are we as a board comfortable with sort of that binary, we have a strategy or
Okay.
not? So there's one in here that is more subjective.
So the goal is the strategy.
Yeah, okay.
That's the measurable.
I'm comfortable with that.
What is the
The measurable is the strategy.
strategy? Yeah.
It's the strategy presentation.
Right, yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. Any other comments, questions from the board?
Thank you for this conversation. It was great.
No. Thanks for being here.
It was,
You made it, just in time.
From the audience, any comments, questions?
Hello, Megan Shirley. I'm a physician assistant here at Tahoe Forest. I just wanted to say I really appreciated hearing the board's deliberation on this topic, particularly with the weighted categories. And I think it was really nice to hear and kind of a reflection of some of the movement we're seeing at the health system as a staff member. And I think, I reviewed this before coming tonight and I saw the weighted, and my initial gut reaction was when I saw 40% in finance, I was like, oh, that didn't really sit good with me. It kind of felt like as long as I'm bringing in the money that everybody's happy. So to see it weighted more evenly really feels good to me as a contributing staff member. So thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate the comment. Any others? With that, then, I believe we'd be ready for a motion.
I'll move that we approve the fiscal year 2026 President and CEO incentive compensation criteria with equal weighting for the 5 criteria.
I second.
All right.
Were you done? You look like you had a...
I wasn't quite sure if I needed to add anything, but I'm done, really.
Okay.
No, that covers it.
I think so. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, approved 5-0. Thank you, everyone, for a thoughtful conversation on that. Item 15.4, Resolution 2025-09, authorizing the use of design-build contracting procedures. Dylan Crosby, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, Dylan Crosby, Vice President of Facilities and Construction Safety Officer for the health system. So there's been a couple changes in legislation that brought staff to bring this before you. Our previous design build authority expired January 1st of 2025. We hop, skipped, and jumped to other authorities within the legislation, and then new legislation is coming forward to reset that baseline in how we've been operating previously, and will go into effect January 1st of 2026. In that effort, the health and safety code reference has changed, so we've updated the resolution to reflect the change. And I wanted to briefly start with just a reminder of design build procurement and how we leverage it. So the health system has used design build since 2018 as our primary delivery model. There's core changes in the delivery, or not core changes, but core differences. So in a typical construction project, In a design bid build environment, we go and we contract directly with a designer. We get a design, we transfer that design, and then go and bid the construction work. And what happens in that environment is there's no direct contractual relationship between the design professionals and the contractors. And so what you get in that is the beautiful word we love to hear all the time, change orders, which is not good, right? It escalates costs, it creates conflict. There's no key connection there. So the key difference in design build is what we do is we define criteria for a project that's prescriptive, which allows flexibility and innovation in the design. But when we go into contract, we actually go into a singular contract of those design professionals and construction professionals under a joint contract. And what that does is it drastically reduces our liability as a health system in owning the design, and subsequently drastically reduces the risk in changes and the cost of changes, because we're not dictating that design or pushing somebody else's design obligation on another party. So that's the key difference. In addition to that, it's an incredibly collaborative experience. You bring all the key members to the table immediately, right before you even start designing the project. And it's been incredibly efficient for us to use, saving us time and money in a more collaborative way. So it's far superior, in my personal opinion, to other matters. So kind of diving back into this resolution, the board holds ultimate authority on awarding contracts. And I have drafted this new revision of the policy specifically in section 2D to provide options to the board to stimulate a discussion in moving forward and how we execute contracts going forward. So the board could ask staff to bring every construction contract that meets a certain threshold to the board for approval. The other side of the spectrum is that is the board could delegate full authority to the president and CEO. Or, of course, there's a plethora of options in between, or delegations with subjectivity, etc. The other key concept for context is when we do a progressive design build project, we build into the construction value. So for instance, design is typically roughly 20% of a total construction cost. We sequentially contract services of design and subsequently construction as we progress through the project. It's very key for us to do that because it reduces our contingency dollars and essentially paying for risk, as a lack of a better term. So in a design build agreement, it would not be uncommon if the board wanted every contract and amendment to come back, if we came back 5 to 10 times on a singular construction project. We do have many, many amendments that we go through as these progress. And with there, I'll pause and be happy to answer or discuss any of the terms in here.
Question. When we passed Measure C, our $98 million bond measure, and started on revamping the ER and building the cancer center, et cetera, we had the services of Janae Gassio, a general contractor, who had subcontractors working for him. My assumption is we didn't do design build because it wasn't available to us at the time, was it? Or why didn't we go with design build at that time? Do you know?
Most of Measure C was before my time as a staff member.
Okay.
I do know multi-prime was highly leveraged during Measure C. I can't speak to the specific decisions on why that was selected for that methodology.
But my thinking is that design build became available for us. That wasn't available back then. Is that what you're remembering?
Yeah, I was not here when the Measure C work began.
Right.
But certainly the use of design build is an authority that the legislature has to allow a local agency to exercise.
Right.
And so that's why in 2018, when they reduced that threshold to $1 million, contracts for $1 million,
Yeah.
we came forward and got board approval to move forward
Yeah.
with using design build. And
Okay.
So you do need specific authority from the legislature to use it.
Yeah, I would also say, Director Chamlin, that our staffing model is quite a bit different from Measure C as well. So we obviously leverage Janae Gassio heavily. We now have project managers and supervision in-house, so we self-oversee our own project rather than paying a third party to oversee construction projects on our behalf at this point.
Yeah. Okay.
Dylan, I'm just looking for a little clarity, because the agenda item is authorizing the use of design-build contracting, but then in the background, we're saying we've been using design-build since 2018.
Yeah, so the board has approved this authority previously, actually effective 2016. We've been heavily utilizing the model since 2018. With the new legislation, the Health and Safety Code referenced for authority to use design build changed. So essentially what necessitated the change in this resolution is just updating that authority to reflect the appropriate public or health and safety code.
Okay.
So that's one of the key changes. As the board delegates authority and essentially dictates how staff should handle contracts and what to be presented to the board, we thought it warranted the discussion to bring up the authority. So the board could have no change from previous, or we could update our model and how we bring contracts forward to recommend approval.
Yeah, the law changed, so
Yeah.
that's why we have to come back with the new resolution.
Gotcha.
Okay.
The legislature forgot or something, and they let the law lapse.
Yeah.
Oh, they let the law lapse.
They let it lapse. And so we went out and got authority, was it earlier this year, right?
Correct.
To move forward under a different statute, which had a higher dollar threshold, so it wouldn't cover as many of the district's projects. But this summer, the legislature figured out what they had forgotten to do, and they implemented again, beginning January 1st of 2026, the authority for healthcare districts to utilize design build with the $1 million threshold.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay.
I have a question, Mike. Dylan, thank you. You referenced some of the upside to the design-build concept. And I'm wondering, what is the downside to using design-build? There must be some thinking out there about that.
Honestly, across the board, it's been my personal experience that if allowed to use it, as David elaborated, there's a certain monetary threshold that we're allowed to use the model. So perceivably in very small projects that we can do really quickly and go out to bid, it's not worth the elongated procurement timeline, because it does take a little longer to get the contractor and designer on board. But that would be my only recollection of the downsides with the model. The other one I'll say, and this is actually the next item, but there is still discretion on what model is used. So this gives us authority to use design build. This does not force us to use design build. And we still have authority to delegate or dictate to which model we want to use for which project. And we always assess that. Is this the right model, or what's the right model given the challenge or opportunity we have in front of us?
I like that it has that flexibility. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just for clarification, because we do have two agenda items, 15.5 is awarding public construction projects, ABD-26, but the two are connected.
They are synonymous, yeah. So if I may, can I just elaborate on the next one? So with the law change, the material change in the law is prior to January 1st of 2025, we were allowed to use design build for any projects exceeding $1 million. When that legislation lapsed, as David described, there's another authority out there, but the limitation is $5 million. So you can only use design build if the project is $5 million or greater. And that's where we stand today. The other material differences in there is there's some self-reporting that's required to the state, and you're maximized to only use design build on 10 projects. coming January 1st, 2026, and we've updated the policy to reflect the coming changes, that limitation on how many projects to use it on is removed, so that's no longer applicable. That monetary threshold that currently sits at 5 million is now reduced down to 1 million again, so really reflecting the change. There are a ton of edits in the policy on how we progress. My honest opinion is there's really no material changes in that. We're just reflecting the current law. All our current processes and past processes still meet the intent of the law and the process we need to follow.
Answer this for me. If you get a general contractor, get a designer to design a building, give the plans, put the plans out for bid, a contractor bids on it, and as he's doing his work, you're walking through and say, oh, we don't have enough lights in here. Well, it's by the plan. We need more lights. We need more heat vents. We need this, that, the other. And of course, it's those change orders that just kill you. How does the design bill avoid that situation?
Yeah, it's a good question. So when you pursue a design build project, you set what's called a criteria document. And in that criteria document, we essentially say, this is the goal of the projects, and these are our must-haves. The wording of that can be very critical, because if you say, we want exactly this many lights, then you're really limiting the innovation and the flexibility of both the design and the build team. And if you can't achieve so many lights, now it's the district's liability for not achieving that to cover the cost to rectify. However, if you say something more performance-based, where you say something to the effect of, I want a minimum of X candle lights per square feet throughout the building, we eliminate the how and therefore do not take on any liability for the how. And subsequently, the contractor and designer jointly have not fulfilled their contractual obligations if they did not meet that performance criteria that we set.
We give them the what, they do the how.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay. Does that help?
Simply stated, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is helpful, thank you, yeah. Okay.
Win-win, sounds like.
I have one question.
Yes.
Ask.
Please.
So I see the options of the prepare recommendation for the board and award, execute contracts and award, execute within the budget. What have we done in the past?
We've done a mix in which we've brought contracts before the board and provided a staff recommendation, and the board was the ultimate authority. We have also, and more recently, been acting and I say more recently, as in like the past 6 or 7 years, staff have been acting in discretion to award contracts.
So it'd be option 2, award and execute contracts. And this option 3, award and execute contracts within the approved budget. That was not the last 5 or 6 years. That's your best recollection. I'm just asking.
Correct,
Okay.
correct. So the staff recommendation here is that the board delegates authority to the president and CEO to award and execute contracts. I do think there is a good stopgap per se. So for instance, if we are going to exceed the approved budget, it would be nice to have the stopgap. And of course, we would do this in practice anyway, is to come bring that before the board and have a discussion and seek approval for why we're requesting additional investments.
So in this, are we also setting a limit on what goes before the board versus what gets approved by our CEO?
If you award, or if the board chooses option 3 under section 2D, then staff would go ahead and pursue and execute and award contracts as they progress. If there was a contract that came before staff that we perceived would extend or go past our approved budget, then staff would come back to the board to seek approval to award said contract.
Okay.
Any other comments, questions? No, from the audience.
So.
Do we do these
Yeah, I was gonna say,
separate, or?
Yeah.
Well, we have the
Separate.
15.5 is.
Yeah.
there are-
With the resolution,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and with that, you're being asked to select
2D,
one
option
of
1,
the
2, or
options
3.
or an option 4, which you.
And then a second would be,
And then, once that's approved, then we'll need to have the policy approved.
okay. All right. Do we have clarity then on which option we would be including in the motion?
Staff recommendation is option 3,
Mhm.
section 2D.
I think you could break this apart if you wish to. If you want to see every contract, then that's an easy direction. If you want staff to discretionally have the discretion to approve, I think that's an option. And then there's kind of a secondary question to that. Is there a stopgap on staff discretion? And is there a point? And if so, what is that point that you want staff to come back to the board
Dollar
to
point.
approve contracts? You could make it a dollar threshold. You could make it against the budget. I mean, the board does review an annual and approves an annual budget. Within that budget, we do have capital expenses by project.
Capital expense by
Well,
project.
I mean, I think that you can't spend money that hasn't been budgeted. So I think that's going to always be the cap. Because then you would need to come back for budget authorization to increase that.
Modify the budget, yeah.
So with that caveat, what Dylan's saying makes sense.
Yeah.
The problem, often you see direction with saying like, any contract for more than $10 million needs to come for board approval. The issue with the design build, as Dylan was saying, is that you don't necessarily know how much the project is totally going to cost all in when you first bid for the design, because that's going to be maybe 20%. You have an estimate, but you don't know for sure. So you could use that estimate for asking when you want to see a contract before it is awarded. Or you can base that on the budgetary authorization that you give annually, which would include a capital improvement program that's going to list all the projects that they're going to be going out for bid on anyway.
Could you tell us what's going on right now with these 3 projects we have going? The Rite Aid, the Gateway Center, and Dollar Hill? Those specific projects have a cost, and the board didn't approve each and every one of those, so because they were in the budget, I take it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how the district has been operating.
Yeah. So, but unlike with Janae Gassio, when they were doing, we approved every month, we had projects that we approved that came before us. So it's a different
So if
situation.
you want to continue what we're doing, you would do option 3.
Yeah.
Thank you for simplifying.
Okay.
That's what I was looking for.
Option 3.
Because someone will need to make a motion.
I'll take a step
Yeah.
into it. I make a motion to approve resolution number 2025-09 for it with the option in section 2D to award and execute contracts within the approved budget and take all necessary action to carry out. Take all action necessary to carry out these actions.
That's a separate.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's D. So I don't know what the and is. Never mind the and. Sorry.
You can,
Where's the and?
So option, well, D, which?
2D.
2D.
Option
Oh, thank
3.
Option 3, yeah,
Oh, yeah, there it is.
within the approved
Yeah, move
budget.
to, let me rephrase that, sorry. To move the recommend approval of Resolution 2025-9 incorporating option 3 of Section 2D, delegating the authority to award and execute construction contracts within the amount as approved in the fiscal year budget to the President and CEO.
Now, we always have, as a board, would be able to, if you came to us and said, oh, you know, this isn't in the budget, but we really got to get this done, obviously, we can then approve it on an individual basis.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And to the point David made, if it wasn't in the budget, then it would have to come to.
Yeah, then it has to
Be
come
in the
to the
budget,
board.
then
Right, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
So do we need a second? now?
okay,
We do need a second, yeah, we have a motion on the table.
okay.
I so move.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, resolution approved 5-0, thank you.
Do you mind if I jump with a really basic question for the next one?
Yeah.
Since we already talked about it. This is California, correct? I just want to make sure I'm completely understood, because I looked at it, ABD, and Nevada has its own code as well. So this is just Nevada, when we're building in Tahoe Forest, the hospital district in the state of California. So I guess my question is, this next resolution is just California only? That's all we're approving right now?
Actually, because Incline Village and our Nevada facilities are under and owned by the district, we follow California public contract law. So this is applicable to all assets and locations under the health system.
Thank you. I
Okay,
have no further
interesting.
questions.
Okay. So on 15.5, which was somewhat incorporated into discussion in the prior agenda item, changes to the board policy really just brought it in line with the changes to the law. Is that?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Effective January 1st, 26.
And I would just note that the authority that we've just received anew from the legislature beginning January 1, that we've just approved, also has a sunset date of January of 2031. So we could be back here again in 2032.
Well, I may not be around.
We'll have a much better understanding of what this means, and we'll zip right through it in 2031.
Yeah.
Let me put on my calendar.
Yeah, right, yeah.
All right, any further discussion, comments, questions on ABD 26? In the audience? No. Okay, so we're looking for a motion to approve the updates to the board policy.
So moved, Dale.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, policy approved 5-0. Dylan, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, my friends, we are getting there. Item 15.6, board officer elections. These are normally held in December. However, I will be absent. And we do need a unanimous vote for board chair.
Well,
No,
Or for,
it would only need to be unanimous if
it's a
you were going
repeat.
to be nominated.
Thank you.
To be chair again, and you were to accept that nomination.
that needs to be
And in
unanimous.
order for you to continue, you need to.
Can I make
it
the
must be
motion?
unanimous.
I would nominate Michael McGarry to be board chair.
I second that.
All in favor?
Any other, well, whoa. Here's it.
Technically, nominations do not require a second. They can require the nominee to accept.
Except,
Right, I'm just reading you guys really want to get out of here, huh? I am looking at, are there any other nominations?
or do you, number one, do you accept?
I'm just, I accept, but are there any other nominations?
I move that the nominations be closed.
Ooh, that's actually like a non-debatable.
Nice move.
Power move.
Power move.
Dang.
All right, we've got a motion, a second,
We
and
don't have to have a
a
second.
termination.
Closure.
A hammer has been dropped. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. I guess it's me. For one more year.
We still have.
Yes. Oh, no, we're not out of here yet, my friends. What do we have? Is there an order that we have to follow here?
I just put vice chair,
Secretary and treasurer.
Treasurer.
Okay, so let's do vice chair next. Be looking
I
for
would
a
like to
nomination.
nominate Dr. Rob Darzenkevich for the position of vice chair.
Will he accept?
I accept.
I move that the nominations be closed.
Just hammering that in. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Welcome.
Congratulations.
You too,
Thank you.
Vice Chair.
You did such an outstanding job.
11 months, like fast.
We are moving
Fast
through these
track.
quickly. All
Fast.
right,
Quick
Secretary.
learner.
Nominations for Secretary.
Currently filled by Director Wong.
I would like to nominate Director Wong for secretary.
I move that the nominations be closed.
And we're not, there is no public comment for this? Is this?
Yes.
I mean, they could deny or?
We're hearing their comment
I'm taking laughter. Yeah, I'm taking laughter as comment.
Yeah, right, yeah, laughter's comment.
All right, we have a motion and a motion, and nominations closed. Where were we? Secretary for Alice Wong. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, unanimous as well. And finally, for treasurer. Ooh, this one could be hotly debated here.
Oh, I nominate Mary Brown.
Oh, you got there first.
I close the nominations.
Well, she has to accept, right?
I'll accept, yes.
Okay. All right.
I move that the nominations be closed.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I nominate Dale as chief closer.
All right. Thank you. I think we do have just a few. I think that concludes officer elections for the year of 2026. Thank you, everybody. There were no consent items pulled. Board committee reports. Did we have any?
That would be me. We've had two. Our board quality met in the beginning of November. We received informational reports from PFAC, and they received some presentations from our leadership group and are following up on some of the recommendations that they've given to see that it's happened. You might see on our website, now they've given some input on how that health, public health or community health tab is and how you can follow that information. And they're also working on a discussion with the barriers to diabetic care, because that seems to be an issue with our community health. We had a presentation on where we are with our Beta Heart program. This year, they're going to do a focus study, taking those items that we were the weakest in and really focusing on how we've done and how we've improved on those. And I think there's just some departments that'll be involved in that. In our discussion and recommendations, Safety First was really interesting because it dealt with medical interpreters that we, in order to interpret in the hospital or any of our facilities, you have to be accredited or at least qualified as a medical interpreter. Well, it's difficult sometimes, especially in the clinic, when you're trying to find one or get a hold of one or use a telephone line. And what a recommendation has been made is we have a lot of bilingual speakers in our organization, and to see if any of those would be interested in getting certified in medical translation or interpretation. And the organization would pay for the program to get them certified. So again, I think that's a great opportunity for many of our employees, especially those in the clinics that are bilingual. We had our charter and our goals were revised, and you approved those in the consent calendar. Health equity was another big discussion point. It's an Assembly Bill 1204 that now requires an annual submission of our equity measurements. And it is on our website, and I recommend that you go through it. It is pages and pages of data. And guess what? We don't have the volumes to really commit to them and giving them the information they need. But we've been putting in the information as it comes along and looking at what kind of opportunities we are to help with improving our health equity if we have a problem with it. And again, that's a tab now on our website, so anybody can go and look at that. And again, we're looking at, are we treating all of our patients equitably. We did have a roundtable discussion. Dr. Rob wanted to have more discussion about quality, how deep, how wide do we go with some of our criteria and our discussions. And we'll continue to have those, looking at emerging challenges that we might have, promoting a culture of safety within our organization, looking at those activities. And then lastly, for our board education, we had Dr. Gladman from the emergency department do a presentation on geriatric emergency department accreditation. And he's really excited about it when he spoke. And in fact, that he's actually changed some of his practices based on some of the criteria that he's read about. And I mean, there are lots of steps to it, but he really believes that we can get it done in a short time. So that was our discussion in our quality committee, and we'll be meeting again in February. And then the executive committee met twice within a week of itself, just trying to work on the incentive compensation criteria. And thank you, everybody, for the discussion and getting those approved and getting the ones that were for 2025 passed and allocated the incentive comp for that.
And how many phone calls did we have in between those meetings, you and I?
Clarifying, yeah.
Yeah, about
What did
10.
she say? What was that note? Did I vote on that?
Yeah, right, yeah.
And again, incentive comp is going to really look at those criteria, and we have a human resource specialist that's been helping us do our criteria and really making it more transformative, directed, rather than, what we do every year. And that was it.
Thank you, Alice. No, you look like you're
I
moving to the mic.
do have something for later.
Okay.
Mary
Sticking
was there.
to-
She was there for the community engagement committee. We had our meeting
Well,
this
yes.
last week,
All
so
right.
she was there. Feel free to jump in, Mary.
Sure, I will.
And I'll just read from my notes, so I'm not texting. But so just going kind of on past items, and so vaping is a problem in our community. We found out from the Children's Healthy Children's California Healthy Kids survey. 11th graders, about 20% are heavily involved in vaping and drinking as well. Mental health improved, but it's gone up, and so there was a very great discussion in our community, and I agree with our President and CEO Anna Roth that to start it requires whether it be an ordinance or whether it be a law, it has to come from the government. We're not the government. We're not the town of Truckee. We can't do but I think we can have a role. So I'm excited that we're going to continue this discussion, get more information of what the counties and community is doing, so we can see how we can play a role as well. We always talk about the CHNA data and the California Healthy Kids that they accrue every 2-3 years, and we learn that there's data that we get from our patients every time they get admitted. And that was a project that was held several years, and there was data that was brought out. And so we're really excited. And so we're excited to bring that back to learn more what went well, what didn't. Because again, it was hard. I think it was really very laborious to get that data, but I think it was really data that we are excited to kind of look at and see. So credit to the team that had to do that for all our inpatients that came in, and we're looking forward to just learning more on timely data that we can find that we have already. So from that as well. Our environment. I love our community pillar. We have never, as long as I've been on the board, 11 months, we have never done environmental stewardship, but we are doing it now. And so, at that meeting, again, that's a huge project. And as we just talked about earlier, that takes time to build. So I'm excited for the Mazzetti proposal, the timeline. So not too much to report, but that there are projects involved in that as well. And that goes along with the 5,000 voices. I don't want to take too much time, but I do want to make a note, I wish you were there. I wish you guys were all there. It was magic, because we talked about, okay, I have 5,000 voices. And someone said, see, and then the community team's like, oh, well, we have voices. And then we have voices. And literally it was a moment of everyone had the voices of everyone they were either getting from the community, or they were getting feedback, or they were getting from the football. So it was really special to hear the entire table saying, oh, we all actually have all these community members. And so we're just excited. It was a very exciting time to hear that as well. We were going to have THAC come, so I was going to have a moment, because if you grant me 2 minutes. I love living here. And one thing I like living here is that I think about the days that you're either skiing in Powder, or you're maybe on a trail or in the lake, and you have this amazing day. And you kind of think to yourself, I am so lucky to live here. And so I had that same moment. I unfortunately could not attend the meeting with the town of Truckee, but when I heard about it, I kind of had that same feeling. I mean, to have the hospital, our county leaders, town of Truckee there, I really felt, my gosh, I'm really lucky to live here. And I want to thank the THAC committee, Director Wong. Thank you so much for being here. I know Ted's not here, but we talked about at the meeting who gets awards for the small wins, and I know Ted was mentioned among with a lot of people, how much work that took. So thank you. I think it took the community, everyone. So thank you, Anna Roth. I thank you at that meeting. I'll thank you again for coming in as president CEO in a short time, coming together, bringing the team. And I know everyone in this room had a hand in it. I know there are so many people who had beforehand. So I thought that was really neat. And so I'm excited a year from now, and I'm always curious, which always gets me in trouble. But I'm curious, what's the data, right? What's the data of the hospital that shows that this worked? Because I think a year from now, being a New Yorker and always paranoid, how is this going to be paid for? Who's going to pay for this? How can you tell that story, right? I've heard of people in our town say, will they be saying, oh, I don't have to step over, one of our neighbors or one of our people who live in this community in front of Safeway on a wet, rainy, snowy day. But is it less ER visits? Is it less, 911 calls? How can we tell the story, especially here in the hospital, that this is saving money and making a difference, so we can tell that story to, state leaders? Because, and I'll finish up with the skiing story, because what's really great when you say that, because I think of the vision of like 4 years from now, when everyone's coming from around the country to say, hey, how did you guys do this? Isn't that the same feeling when you get skiing and you have this great day and you're just like, guys, it's great. Someone says, hey, do you live here? Because you know what? This is a great place to be. And I think that would be really fun in a couple of years from now, hear that from other people. And that is the community engagement meeting.
I couldn't agree more. And as always, thank you for your enthusiasm.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Any other committee reports?
Yes, I'm a member of the Incline Village Hospital Foundation board. Even though I don't live in Nevada, they made me a member of their board, because I, for years, have been giving them reports about what goes on at the district level. For years, we had a Best of Chefs event that we put on here ostensibly to support the Cancer Center. But with the advent of COVID, that dropped by the wayside. The last couple of years, we've had an event called Just the Best Of. And they have these chefs come and set up booths around the North Tahoe Event Center and put on this meals, and they have packages that they sell. They auction off, very creative auctioneer who sells these packages where a typical package might be a cruise for 12 of your friends on the lake, and then dinner at your house following, put on by this chef. I got to tell you, what was really interesting this go-around is, the Incline Village Foundation raises a lot of money. I'm mindful of, they asked Jack Dillinger, the famous bank robber, why do you rob banks? Well, it's because that's where the money is. There's a lot of money over in Incline, and they have tremendous opportunities and successful opportunities to raise funds. They're doing a new revision of their operating room and some other construction. Roughly, they needed $7.8 million, and they got one check to cover it from one donor. But what was really interesting at this event at the in Kings Beach was the big bidders were from Incline, which really amazed me. They were supporting the mothership, and I thought that was a fantastic change. Yeah, did you notice that too?
I did.
Crystal, do you get involved in the actual collection, and do you have any sense of where the money really came from? Because they raised, what, some $350,000, I think? Yeah. In the event? Carly knows the details. Carly knows, yeah, okay, all right. But anyway, I thought it was really interesting that the Incline Village group was not only is highly supportive of their own community, but they are also supportive, as they say, of the mothership, so.
Absolutely. Thank you. Of course, it's all appreciated. I did want to shout out on that event as well. It was a remarkable event, and it's not a competition. All the chefs are there to do their best, but I do want to note that the chefs from Tahoe Forest did get some rave reviews.
Yes, they did.
If it was a competition, they might have been towards the top.
Well, and then there was the candy, that small box that, on a per ounce basis, yeah.
All right.
They're going to bronze it and put it on their mantle. They're not eating it.
Can't afford to, yeah, right.
There was, in the interest of time, there was a Tahoe Foundation meeting this month as well. The bulk of that conversation was about the event, though, and how it worked, what didn't work, what we might do in years looking forward. So, any other committee reports?
I have one from TAC, from THAC, for the unsheltered. One of the things that our member brought up was how we're going to know that it's a success, and what are the metrics? And then the other part was, what are the safety safeguards around the area that will protect those coming in as well as the community? And that discussion went on, I think, about 3 weeks ago, and we had input from the HOA, from Cold Streams Commons, and also from THAC, and from the county, and also Volunteers of America. And so that's being pulled together now, and I think in January is the next meeting that they'll present that as for approval, that those are the metrics we'll use, and these are the safeguards that we have all agreed on.
Love it. Fantastic.
She's packing up.
Did you have?
Yeah, I mean, often we, I know we have input about future meeting topics and the like, and I don't know how many of you have been following the San Francisco Chronicle series on, I think they started out calling it the doom cycle or something, but it's talking about the changes, the tremendous impact that aging is having on San Francisco. And although we think of ourselves as a very youthful, active community, we really are aging significantly here.
Every day.
And not me, yeah. Well, maybe that's why I'm concerned about this topic.
The other statistic
okay.
the other statistic is that in 10 years that the seniors will outnumber the children in our community.
But the needs are changing along with it, and what have you. But I would love to hear Dr. Gladman's presentation, or to learn more about what he's doing, because, I mean, it also seems to beg the issue, do we need a geriatrics a gerontologist, or, what have you, as our complement of providers. But anyway, I would like to move that for a special meeting, for a meeting topic.
All right, appreciate that.
And as a suggestion too, Jeff Fountain put on at the party the other night and told a bunch of us about what AI is doing and how fast it's growing. I got to tell you, I think the whole board should hear it, and the board community should hear it. It was really interesting stuff.
Yeah, I would think that's absolutely warrants a conversation for sure. Any others? Closing comments? I was at 30,000 feet last night, so I missed it, but I understand there was a wonderful party that warrants a shout out again to the Teals for hosting year over year. I have attended the past years. It's a remarkable event, so I think just a public shout out and thank you for hosting that event and all that attended. And with that, we'll adjourn.
Happy New Year.